Thank you for choosing to view this presentation about changes in the academic assessment reporting process. This presentation was originally given to faculty and staff in May 2017 and then repeated in August. The last slide includes contact information for any questions you have after viewing this video. I will be referencing two documents during this presentation, the Academic Assessment Report Template and the Giant Steps Initiatives table. Both of these documents will be available as links on the same web page where you accessed this video. There are four purposes for this presentation. First, I want to introduce you to the process for reporting on contributions by academic programs to the Giant Steps Strategic Plan. Second, I will present the new template format and point out changes from the previous version. Third, I will explain the new strategic objectives components of the report, and most importantly, I will answer some frequently asked questions about these new processes and provide you resources for asking questions that might not be answered in this video. Before we get into the details of the changes to our academic assessment reports, it seems important to take some time and explain why we made these changes. First, we are always trying to make the assessment reporting process more manageable for and useful to the departments and the university. Our change from a third-party software to locally designed document-based reporting is a recent example of improvements to the process. In this most recent revision, we've combined the student learning outcomes with strategic planning objectives in order to eliminate at least one report per department. Asking for academic areas to report on strategic initiatives is not new, you see. Previously, these strategic initiatives were reported at the department level in a separate document. And at different times, departments were also asked to submit annual department highlights and institutional effectiveness items. And many programs, departments, and units on campus also contributed to different sets of reports for the university-wide strategic plan. That is a lot of separate documents to submit. By simply adding a section for strategic objectives on the academic program assessment reports and requiring that strategic planning contributions be reported here, we've combined all of these elements into an existing document. A second reason for combining strategic objective reporting with student learning outcomes is to make the literal connection between the two sides of the house, academic and administrative, which were sometimes artificially separated. In one report, we would read about student learning related to global engagement, for example, but the department would report separately in its administrative assessment report about expanding international internships in order to engage students globally. The two items were connected, but found in completely separate reports. Recruitment and retention, graduate funding, teaching assistant and faculty development, among many other initiatives, are often connected to an academic program. Reporting them separate from the academic assessment reports separated stories that really should be told together. And finally, moving from the detailed picture to the big picture, this report allows us to illustrate the connections between program-level strategic objectives and the university's overall strategic plan. The university's strategic plan focuses on academic departments and faculty projects that are often realized in academic programs. The new templates ask that you indicate any connections between your program's strategic objectives and the university's strategic plan to allow the Chancellor's Office to track progress in the areas of strategic focus and areas of transformation contained in Giant Steps. We'll look at the template shortly to see how those connections are illustrated, but for now it's important to know that we will use these reports to extract results of your projects that connect to UNCG's Giant Steps strategic plan. Now we arrive at what you need to know about how these changes relate to reporting for the Giant Steps strategic plan. I want to first take a minute to show you a table of the Giant Step initiatives that was created by Julia Jackson Newsom, Associate Vice Chancellor for Strategy and Policy in the Chancellor's Office. This document includes a summary of the more than 60 proposals accepted last fall as the first round of initiatives related to the strategic plan. What you see on the left side of this slide is the cover of the document. On the right side, you see the actual table contained in the Giant Steps document. The first column summarizes the initiative. The middle column indicates the unit with which that initiative is associated, and the right column identifies the point person or persons for each. This document can be accessed on the same page where you found this video. You can get there by going to assessment.uncg.edu, clicking on the Strategic Planning link, then selecting Giant Steps Initiatives. I encourage you to read through these to be aware of the variety of projects happening across campus and contributing to the strategic plan. With that, let's return to how this relates to academic assessment reporting. Everyone should know that the only means for reporting connections to UNCG's strategic plan is through annual assessment reports. We have worked with Julia Jackson Newsom, and it's been decided that there will not be a separate report to submit for anything that you do connected to the university's strategic plan. This is important because it means that any programs, projects, or activities that are meant to contribute to Giant Steps need to be included in an assessment report for them to be included in the strategic planning data. I'll repeat that to be clear. To be included in the data for the Giant Steps strategic plan, you need to report through annual assessment reports submitted to the Office of Assessment and Accreditation. When I met with the Associate Deans in the spring about this decision, they concluded that it was more efficient and effective to have the initiatives identified in the Giant Steps document that I just showed you reported only through the Dean's Office's annual assessment report. So, if you are a point person or are involved in any way with an initiative listed in the Giant Steps document I just showed you, those results will be reported in your Dean's annual assessment report. That said, you may be working on other activities or projects that you feel are related to the strategic plan's areas of transformation and areas of strategic focus, and you may want to record those connections for the Chancellor's Office. Your academic program's annual assessment report is the place to do that, and I'll say that again. You may be working on something that you believe contributes to the Giant Steps strategic plan, although it's not listed in the current table of initiatives. If that is the case, you should describe it in your assessment report as an objective. It will go in the strategic objectives section, but we'll talk in more detail about that shortly. I'll also note that the Chancellor's Office has said that they realize that metrics and targets may not yet completely be defined for some objectives. If that is the case, please indicate that by inserting TBD, that is, to be determined, in the measure or in the target items. Okay, before we get to the actual report template, I have one more important message to convey from the Chancellor's Office about connecting to the university's strategic plan. They have said plainly that no academic program should feel obligated to connect directly to the strategic plan. As they've said, there are no rewards for connecting to many areas, and there are no repercussions for connecting to none. They want to avoid people trying to force connections to the plan that are not authentic, and focus instead on strategic objectives that make sense for the academic program and for the institution. It is now time to look at the new template. By now, hopefully everyone has received their report templates to complete for last year, 2016-2017, so you've at least gotten a glimpse of the revisions. It would have come to you on or around May 1st from the email address oaa@uncg.edu. If you cannot find it or you did not receive it, please just email me at jepettaz@uncg.edu or email my office at oaa@uncg.edu, and we'll make sure you get another copy. One of the most important changes is that we've added all of the department-level strategic objectives to the academic program assessment reports. As I mentioned earlier, we used to have each academic department complete what we called an institutional effectiveness report. In this report, departments describe their own strategic plans for things like recruiting students, seeking external funding, expanding their connections with alumni, implementing diversity plans, and many other projects. Because so many of those projects connected directly to student learning, faculty found it confusing to separate them into another report. For that reason and others I've mentioned, they are now in the academic assessment reports in a section called Strategic Objectives. This section follows your student learning outcomes and should look like this example on the right side of the slide. There are a few more directions on your template, but I've shortened them here just so that you get a sense of what you'll find. It's a clearly defined new section of your report, and the initiatives defined in your department's institutional effectiveness report have been transcribed into your academic assessment report, including the objectives, measures, and targets. Just as with your student learning outcomes, we've given you a starting point. Let's take a minute to talk about strategic objectives. As I noted on the last slide, strategic objectives are any initiatives that faculty are working on that are not student learning. So if the faculty in your department have decided to work on increasing external funding, improving retention of your students, implementing faculty development for your teaching assistants, or any number of other goals, those are reported as strategic objectives. Hopefully, that helps you understand what we are talking about when we say strategic objectives. As I mentioned earlier, these used to be reported in department-level assessment reports called institutional effectiveness reports, but we've moved them into academic program assessment reports for efficiency and effectiveness. What we moved into your program report may not align with your program, so it's important to understand that these objectives are completely controlled and owned by your department. For this reason, you should edit your strategic objectives to match what is appropriate for your program and for your report. You can delete anything we moved over that is not relevant. If it's important to another area of your department, please consult with your department head to make sure that objective is accounted for in another report, but then tell us to remove it from your report by checking the "If you modified this objective" box under the objective, and simply state delete or remove or some variation of that. Then add or modify any objectives that are relevant to your program. These belong to you and they should represent your program story. Please make any changes needed to accurately reflect your work to improve your program. Finally, we talked a little earlier about the need to report any initiatives related to the Giant Steps strategic plan in these reports. If you are in the table of Giant Steps projects, you must report them in your Dean's report. However, you might also have objectives for your program that fit into the Giant Steps framework. Maybe your faculty are working together on a project that engages our students in a community outreach project, and you think that it perfectly demonstrates the Giant Steps intersection of student transformation and vibrant communities. The Chancellor's Office wants you to indicate that on your report, and the Office of Assessment and Accreditation will collect that information into a report for the Chancellor's Office. This will be used to track additional initiatives that move the strategic plan forward. So, if you believe that any of your objectives contribute to UNCG's Giant Steps, even if they're not in the current table of initiatives, indicate that on your report. On the next slide, we'll show you how that works. Here is a picture of the matrix that we've added to each objective in your academic assessment report. Hopefully, this matrix looks familiar to you, as it is the one that the Chancellor's Office developed to illustrate the intersections of the areas of transformation, which are student, knowledge, and regional transformation seen across the top of the matrix, and the areas of strategic focus, which are health and wellness, vibrant communities, and global connections along the left side. We added the matrix because the Chancellor's Office is aware that you may have a project or initiative happening in your program that relates directly to the Giant Steps, but might not be part of the 60+ identified in their table. If you feel you do, check the appropriate box or boxes under the objective that aligns. If the objective does not already exist in your report, you can just add it by inserting a new objective. And please feel free to contact my office if you need help adding anything. When you check one of those boxes, my office will forward your information that includes the objective, measure, and target to the Chancellor's office. They will then use that information as they see fit to inform their knowledge about progress on the strategic plan. It is that easy to share your information, but it's up to you to identify your objective by checking one or more of the boxes. I'll mention that matrices do not appear with the student learning outcomes, only with the strategic objectives. But if you believe one of your SLOs contributes to the plan, contact my office and we'll work with you to document that too. All right, the third and final change that we've made to the academic assessment reports is to move the action plans and their follow-up narratives to the academic assessment report as well. That just makes sense since we transferred all of the departmental strategic objectives to this report, right? This is an example of something an academic department might have identified as an action plan in their 2015-2016 report. We transferred that to the follow-up section in the 2016-17 report so that they can tell us how it was executed, what the impact was, and whether that was the impact they intended, and what they will do next, if anything, on this action plan. This is just like the actions identified for student learning, but it relates to actions connected to strategic objectives instead. We always provide the action plan description you provided, so you don't have to look back at previous reports, and it will be the same with these actions. All you need to do is finish the story and tell us how those actions were carried out. Finally, I wanted to share a couple more points about action plans in particular. First, for academic programs, action plans must include at least one plan to improve student learning. You may have action plans to improve your strategic objectives like retention or external funding, but you absolutely must continue to improve learning. I cannot be more emphatic about this point. Improving student learning needs to be the improvement focus for all academic programs. Second, if you report on a 2-year cycle for your academic assessment, you remain on that schedule. You will develop action plans and report follow-ups on them every other year, just as you do with your student learning outcomes. This status is for programs that have a consistent history of assessing and continuous improvement, so some programs remain on an annual cycle of reporting. The Office of Assessment and Accreditation will let you know if you report annually or otherwise. And the third point is about any objectives you have that you are relating to the Giant Steps strategic plan. Please use the action plan section to report any next steps you will perform for any objectives related to the strategic plan. So if your initiative is something that you will do over 3 years, please explain the steps you'll take in the next 3 years to complete your project and meet your goals. If you have any questions about this or any aspect of Giant Steps, please contact Julia Jackson Newsom in the Chancellor's office. Her contact information is on a slide I'll share in just a minute. This completes everything I wanted to share about changes in the academic assessment reports. To summarize, the decision to combine the academic and administrative reporting is intended to make processes more efficient. We'll be writing fewer reports for assessment and strategic planning, and the connections between learning and strategic planning will hopefully be more authentic, which leads to the second point. By including Giant Steps in these reports, UNCG is emphasizing the connections of strategic planning initiatives happening in departments and units to the university's strategic plan. All strategic planning initiatives are reported in the assessment processes that we've conducted for years. Deans will report in their annual reports on the quote-unquote big initiatives related to Giant Steps, and academic programs and departments will identify their own initiatives in these individual reports. We've included the matrix in these reports to help you communicate those connections to us. And finally, this third item is very important. These reports belong to the faculty, and they should reflect the objectives and actions that they prioritize. While we try to be helpful by moving your department's objectives into these program reports, these reports should be edited to reflect what is truly important to the faculty in each program. If you need help modifying these reports to make those edits, please contact my office, and I'll provide that contact information to you in just one more minute. Before I conclude, I wanted to address a couple of questions that have come up in more than one occasion. The first question is, how many strategic objectives do we have to have? Well, we are asking at this time that each program have at least one. So you need to have 3 student learning outcomes for the program and 1 strategic objective. We will evaluate this decision after this first round of reporting. The second question I've been hearing is, what do I do if I think something's connected to Giant Steps, but I'm not sure? Julia Jackson Newsom is willing to field all questions about the strategic plan. Reach out to her. If you don't want to do that, you can always indicate a connection on your report, and the Chancellor's Office will use that information. They may get in touch with you, or they may use the information as additional evidence of progress in and connections to Giant Steps.